It's so soft, it's so comfortable. There's so many uses for sheepskin. People use them in hospitals, people use them at home for bedding because they're hypoallergenic, so you don't have to worry about any allergies from sheepskin. It's got natural lanolin in the sheepskin and in the fur so that it's very soft and very comfortable. It's really great for people who have fibromyalgia or arthritis or have any kind of joint issues. And one of the things we are going to talk about today is making this sheepskin into a seat cover and a custom seat cover for your RV seat. Many of you may drive many miles at a time, and this will make it much more comfortable for you, for your back, for your legs. And even if you're driving a few miles, it's still very comfortable. One other thing I've noticed is that our little dog Haley loves sheepskin as well. She will gravitate toward this and lay on this more than she will on anything else. So Active RV Upholstery does make custom seat covers for your RV captain's chairs, and I thought what we would do today is take a look at the measurements and how you can measure for a custom seat cover for your RV. So let me just put these aside, and there's very few things that you're going to need to measure for your seat cover. One is going to be the measuring form, which is available at activervupholstery.com. You can download the form. It looks really complicated, but it's not that bad. So you'll need that measuring form because they'll need to know exact dimensions to make that seat cover fit your seat. You're going to need a pen, obviously, to write down the dimensions. And then you will need a fabric or a vinyl tape that is flexible. So if any of you are seamstresses or your spouses are seamstresses, then you'll have one of these readily available. First measurement will be from the skirt line to the top of the seat portion of your chair. Then you're going to measure across the front, and I go from seam to seam. Then you also want to measure about midway back from seam to seam and back at the very back of your chair, because that will change. You can see it's wider here than it is in the back. Once you have those measurements, now you want to measure from the front of your chair to that center line. So we know that measurement, and again from that center line to the back for another measurement. You also need to measure from the front to the back where the chair ends. So we want that measurement. The next thing we're going to need is the measurement from the top of the back of your chair down to the bottom of the back. So we want that measurement. I find it easier actually to measure from the side all the way up to the top, putting your armrest down. That way you can get a better measurement that way. We also need to measure across the base of the top, the back of your chair. So we're going to measure that. Same thing, we're going to measure in the center, going across from side to side, again using those seam lines. We also need a measurement up at the top because obviously this headrest portion is also going to be smaller. So we want to make sure we've got that measurement. We also have to have depth because, you know, it is going to be a custom fit for you. So we're going to measure across the top of the back of the chair. We've already measured across the front. The next thing we're going to need to do is to measure the width on either side. So same thing, we're going to measure in 3 places. Here in the middle, again, we can put that armrest down, measure front to back, and then at the bottom we also need to have that measurement. In addition to the cushion measurements, we need to have the measurements on the side from the base of the skirt up to where the seam line is in 3 places. So make sure you get all of those measurements. We want to make sure we've got a good custom fit for the seat cover. So it's real important to be real careful when you're doing your measurements. Again, we're going to have the 3 measurements on the side of the cushion to make sure we know the depth of that. And once you've got the main portion of the seat measured, now there are some cutouts that have to be made. The seat cover is going to come with sheepskin all along the front and the base where you're going to be sitting. And then the back and the sides are actually going to be a matching acrylic material because you don't really need to have the benefits of the sheepskin on the back of the chair where you're never going to sit or touch or feel. So you can see that I've got a seat belt in my case that comes out of the chair. So what we need to do is we need to measure what that distance is so we can know where the cut needs to be made. First of all, we're going to measure from the top of the seam down to the top of where the cutout is. And then we're going to do the same measurement on the other end, and we need to measure how long that cutout is as well. So those are the basic measurements. We also need to know how far it is from this end. So there's going to be a measurement from here to the seam line. In addition to that, you can see we have armrests, and it's real important to make sure that we get the armrest position measured accurately. So remember, we did the measurement from here down to the base of the top. We also need to know where that pivot point is on the armrest. So we're going to measure from that seam line on the top down, just slide your finger down underneath there to where that pivot point is. And then we need to know the distance from that pivot point to the front of the cushion. So you're going to, and it's a little bit of a challenge, but just put your measuring tape down in there, measure to the outside of the front of the back, and that will give you the measurement for where that pivot point is for this arm as well as for the other arm. Other things that can impact a custom fit will be your seat belt connector down at the bottom, any power options you might have on your seat, and so we need to know where all of that is as well. Now, in order to get the right cutouts, if you choose to use them, and in fact I chose not to have the cutouts for my power because my seat cover actually is going to end right at this line, and so it's easy enough to just lift that up and use my power buttons. However, if you do want to have a cutout for those, you're going to measure from the back of the base of the chair to the back end, if you can see that, of where the power supply is. We're also going to measure from the front of that to the front of the base of the chair. We also need to know how far down it is from the top of the chair, and we need to know how big this particular piece is. So we need to measure the depth, if you will, of that particular piece and how long that piece is. So that will give the accurate measurements to do the cutouts for there. Also, you might have some on the front, and you might have some on the driver's side as well. So you want to make sure you get all of those measurements. Then one final thing on the chair itself is, you can see on my chair I have a split in the base of my skirt. And the reason that that's an important place to know is there's going to be an attachment piece that goes right through that slit and hooks to the bottom of the chair to hold my seat cover in place. So we need to know where that attachment piece needs to be. So I'm going to measure from my seam line to where the slit is from this side, and that's about 10 inches. And then I'm going to measure from this side over to the other, which is again about 10 inches. So they just need to know where that particular opening is so they can put the elastic attachment piece in the right space. You also have the option of creating armrest covers, and that is a good option if you've got elbow issues or joint issues and you want to have the benefits of the sheepskin on your arms as well. Basically, same kind of thing. We need to know how big that armrest is. We're going to measure it in several places because you can see mine is an unusual shape. Yours may be like this, or yours may be rectangular, but even still we want to measure in 3 different places what size that armrest is and also the width of the armrest. So those are all very important numbers to be able to construct a sheepskin cover that will fit your chair. Once all your measurements are done and they've been recorded, what you'll do is you'll send those off to Active RV Upholstery, and they will make your custom seat cover for you. It takes about 2 weeks to get that back. Depending on where you are in the country and the shipping time, that could vary. But we're real excited because we have ours in-house already. And after the break, Jim is going to come in and he's going to actually do the installation on this chair so you can see what the fit looks like. You can see that Jim has the seat cover, and again we have the sheepskin on the front edge, and it's acrylic attachment to it, and it's one long piece. So what he's going to have to do is actually put it in over the top of the back of the seat. That's your first step. And you can see there's a backing on it, so it's going to slide over the top. And it takes a little bit of time to make this happen because it is a custom fit and you need to, you know, adjust it to fit your particular seat. Once he has it over the top, the next thing he's going to do is put in a bar that actually will give you the delineation between the back of the seat and the seat of the seat. And that PVC pipe actually slides into a pocket on the underside of the cushion, or actually of the sheepskin, and it just slides in between the two pieces of the top and the seat cushion. Once that's done, you can see there's Velcro on one side because you have to obviously have an opening. So we know how we talked about creating a space for the seat belt that comes out of our seat. They actually cut a slit across. He's going to take that Velcro and push it through underneath the seat belt. And again, it's going to take a little bit of manipulating. You want to get it in between that arm and the side of the chair. And basically then you're just going to attach the Velcro pieces together to create a finished line. Now, one real good thing about sheepskin is it is washable. I would hand wash it, but don't use any kind of woolite or Tide. You don't want to damage the fibers. And I already mentioned that it is hypoallergenic, so it's really good for people who might have some allergies that they're worried about. So once he's got that tucked in, he's going to move it over to the other side and again tuck that in between the seat and the armrest. And you can see that it is finished on the edge and it's elasticized as well. So he's going to be able to tuck that in. And you can see some straps that we're going to use for attaching it to the base. Because you have to have some kind of attachment, otherwise it would just flop around. So sheepskin is also naturally resistant to static electricity, which is also great. I can't tell you how many times I've slid out of my polyester seat by my table and touched the metal on my refrigerator and gotten a shock. So you won't have that with sheepskin. To keep your sheepskin looking nice, you basically are going to just brush it regularly just to bring the nap back up. Jim is going to take the elastic straps, and in our case we've got an extra flap over our skirting, so he's going to put that underneath the skirting so we're not looking at it and attach the two elastic pieces together, and that is going to hold that seat cushion in place. The top is already held in place because it slips over the top. And he's almost done. We just need to do some adjustment on the front base of the seat. Now, wool is actually the world's leading natural fiber. And ounce for ounce, it's actually stronger than steel, believe it or not. And of course, it's going to be cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And you all know that from clothing, where it's much better to wear wool than it is another material when you're out in the cold weather, because it wicks moisture away from you and helps keep you warmer. So he's just going to hook that front strap underneath. And you know how I mentioned there was a split in our front base? That's where that strap is going through beneath our skirting. And that's basically it. Now you have a custom made sheepskin seat cover. And I know that we're going to enjoy it. And Jim does most of our driving, so he's going to enjoy it more than I do. But as I mentioned before, Haley loves this as well. Already she's decided that that's her place to sleep at night. And there you have it, a custom sheepskin seat cover for your RV captain's chairs, manufactured by Active RV Upholstery. So any information as far as colors, we chose a lighter golden color to fit in our motorhome. There are lots of other colors available. You can find those on the website. It's activervupholstery.com. Or if you want to email them directly, you can do that at activervupholstery@gmail.com. So I hope we are going to enjoy this. In fact, I'm going to enjoy it right now before we travel the next time and Jim gets to use it. And it is so comfortable. We'll see you next time on American RVer.